What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is one of those points in the year where we start getting a lot of announcements from camera manufacturers about equipment they're going to be releasing in the next year, and there's been a lot of announcements this week already. The one that was the most surprising to me was actually Kodak's announcement that they are going to be releasing a Super 8 movie camera. And this is particularly interesting because, as many of you know, Kodak have had trouble in recent years, and they've tried to reorganize the company, and they've gone in and out of bankruptcy. And I think this is a really interesting move on Kodak's part, and I think it shows real change in what that company wants to do, and also shows it embracing its film culture, because what this is it's a Super 8 camera that actually is a hybrid digital analog process, and I want to explain that and talk about that some in this video. So what they've actually announced with the Kodak Super 8 camera is a camera that utilizes analog capture but has a lot of features that you would find on a digital camera. For instance, there's a 3.5-inch swiveling digital viewfinder. It's going to actually capture what it sees on Super 8 film, and so you're going to use cartridges for this, much like you did in the old days, and the cartridge, each one contains 50 feet of film, which, depending on your frame rate, is around 15 minutes of recording time. There are going to be two lens options for this camera. There's going to be a single fixed 6mm Ricoh lens, or you can get a zoom lens. It's a 6-48 Ricoh. There is a wheel-based user interface. It has a built-in light meter, cartridge detection. It also features exposure control. You'll be able to manually adjust the speed and iris settings, and it's going to have USB charging for the battery. Now, the frame rates on this camera are pretty interesting. You can select between 9, 12, 18, 24, or 25 frames per second. Really, you're going to be able to get the best footage at 24 or 25, since those are fairly standard. However, it does offer slower frame rates if you want to get more time on the cartridge and don't care as much about the visual quality. And that's been pretty standard on Super 8 cameras for years. Now, here's the interesting part. When you buy a cartridge of film, you're paying for the film, but also the processing. So what you're going to do is you'll actually shoot on the film, and then you'll send it back to Kodak, and they will process, scan, and what they're going to deliver back is not only the movie roll of film, so you could hook that up to an 8mm projector, but also a digitized version. And I think this is very key in what makes this particularly interesting. This is expected for release in the fall of 2016, and the camera prices are expected to be somewhere between $400 and $750, probably depending on what the lens options you want to get are. And the film's going to be priced at $50 to $75, and I'm not sure what that range represents, probably color versus black and white, or maybe they're just not sure yet. Now, there are a couple questions that I actually have about this camera, and the first is really interesting, is that it says it's going to support audio. And if you've shot Super 8, you probably know that this is a feature that really hasn't been supported in Super 8 film for a long time. Basically, it used a side of the strip of film to actually record the audio track on, like it would an audio cassette. And that's really kind of, it's hard to find film that will do that anymore, and nothing really supports it. So that's something that's gone away. So I don't know if the audio process is going to be captured in the camera digitally, or how exactly that's going to work, but I do find that pretty interesting. So this is a particularly interesting move from Kodak, I think, for a number of reasons. As I mentioned earlier, Kodak is a company that has had a lot of trouble in recent years. They've been in and out of bankruptcy, and they've never been able to really embrace their place in the digital world. And for them to turn around and essentially embrace the analog roots that they're a big part of, I think is a big deal. And this might actually work. I think the Super 8 idea is very interesting. This is a niche market that filmmakers still use, but it's really expensive when you get into it. I bought a camera several years ago that I wanted to start doing Super 8 on, mainly for B-roll and films that I produce. And for me, it was really just too expensive once you get into scanning, and it just wasn't worth it for me. So it's interesting to see Kodak pick this up. Now, I mentioned earlier that the cartridges are $50 to $75, and what you need to understand about that is, yes, that does sound expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than if you were going to go do it tomorrow. And the fact that this is a process that's going to involve, basically, you pay for the cartridge and you've already paid for the processing. So you're going to shoot, send it back to them, and they're going to digitize it and then send you your film back as well as a digital copy. I think is very key. Now, I will be interested to hear more about what the scanning is going to be like and what some of the specs are on like that. Is it just a basic scan, or is it going to be a 4K scan, or what kind of format are you going to get back? And that is important because Super 8 is a pretty low quality. It's a very small piece of film, and it does not natively shoot 16:9. And so if you're going to use it in film production now, you're probably going to need the capability to at least zoom in on that. So I'll be interested to hear what Kodak is going to tell us about what the scans are going to be like. Now, having said that, the final thing, and I think this is really important, and this isn't the first time that I've heard about this idea of kind of this hybrid ecosystem, but Kodak are very interested in introducing more cameras down the line based on this type of technology. And as somebody who's done a photography show for a while now, I've covered film quite a bit over the years, and I have met a lot of people through this show that love shooting film. And in my experience, there's basically two types of people who come to shoot film. There's the type that get totally into it. They embrace the medium. They love the fact that it's something tangible that they make with their hands, and the warmth and the analog qualities are something that they don't really get in the digital. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but those people go really hardcore into this. They start developing on their own film. They really learn the process of it. There's a second group of people that come at it for the same reasons, but for whatever that is, once it comes to learning how to process it yourself, they'd rather send that to a lab. It's too much to get involved with. They're not comfortable working with the chemicals, whatever reason that may be. And we have seen the disappearance of a lot of photo labs in recent years, so that is becoming less commonplace and more difficult to do. What's interesting is this model takes that concept and brings it into something on the consumer level. So basically what you're going to be doing, ideally from Kodak down the road, is you could have a medium format camera or maybe a professional quality camera that could shoot both digital and film at the same time. But I like that model where you're going to send your film to them. They'll do the processing and the scanning and save you that time and send it back. And I think that that's particularly interesting to me. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this takes and how photographers react to this. And so I guess we'll find out more as we move towards the fall of 2016. But that is the new Super 8 camera that's been introduced by Kodak. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it, share it with your friends, and as always, subscribe to The Art of Photography so you'll always be up to date on all the latest and greatest stuff that we do here. Until the next video, I'll see you later.